You've probably heard of the chainmail bikini, the piece of armor that's not particularly combat effective, but draws the eye, which is not necessarily the best combat strategy. The decisions that we make for character fashion can speak to our player without a word. And even though chainmail bikini discussions are relevant, that doesn't mean that we always have to err on the side of pure practicality. There is a reason to communicate style. You can use it as an opportunity to tell a story and even integrate ideas of your own heritage or culture. For these reasons and more, our next speaker is here to talk about the spaces in which you might prioritize style over substance. Nana Moon is the founder of Moonana Games, the studio behind Virgo vs. the Zodiac, Osteoblasts, and Keylocker turn-based cyberpunk action, which came out just this week alongside the Game Devs of Color Expo Direct. Their team has been working on astounding character designs for every title, so here to talk about that and more, please welcome to the stage, Nana Moon.
Hello everyone, I'm Nana Moon and I'm here to do the talk Style over Substance, Creating Character Design with Culture. Before I introduce myself, I would like to introduce my talk. I will be reading through my notes here with you guys, so I'm not like messing up midway. So style over substance is essentially when someone uses compelling language to support an argument without legitimate logical analysis. But style over substance can also mean when someone is well dressed, but they lack practicality in the search for style. You might be wondering then why I chose this title. And that's because I approve of this concept in character design. Um, However, it's a fact that there is a time and place for that. When going to war, for example, without proper armor that can defend your vital organs, one can die quite easily. It is though known that armor was both stylish and well decorated as well as very protective. The style and substance used to walk hand in hand, expressing the cultural power of a nation's craftsmanship through war and how they choose to attack and defend themselves. The role of war in society has changed significantly through the centuries, turning into something way more practical than performative, which explains the lack of decoration in police's armor or shields. Of course, preferably, most of us aren't going to war and don't need war gear, let alone well-decorated ones. But it is true that all of us need to get dressed every day, and that's an important part of the human experience. Um, Here you can see there's a picture in the 1800s. This is in Egypt in the 1800s, when I believe Egypt was under Turkish command, and this is modern Egypt on the other side. So, cultural dressing has been in severe decline unless for upkeeping sparse practices of cultural rituals. In these images, you can see, as I said, Egypt in the 1800s and Egypt nowadays with modern photographs. As you can see, the reality is that practical dressing won the war over style, while in the 1800s, the cultural and somewhat complicated looking attire overflowing with style would be worn quite often by Egyptian women. This was despite the fact that the intricate detailing made it very difficult to get dressed or undressed. In this talk, I'd like to explore this subject, as well as try to help people wanting to bring more cultural background to the way their characters dress, to shine a light on good character design to create cultural marks. This is me. I'm Nana Moon. I'm a Brazilian game developer. I live now in England, and I come from native indigenous and African descent, and as most Brazilians, I'm mixed, and this is my life experience when exploring on this talk. I work with my company that I formed in 2017, so we've been working together now for 7 years. That's my lucky number. I did my first demo in 2017, I think. And I got a successful Kickstarter then and released my first game in 2019. And since 2020, I've been working on my new game, Kilocker, that will be released probably together with Game Devs of Color this year. So I'm very excited for that and see everyone playing my new game. It's a cyberpunk turn-based RPG about a singer in a world without music. But I think I should stop talking about it now and have the trailer do all the talking. So what I would like to start this slide with, well, what creates culture then? Just to summarize, here you can see some clowns from Brazilian culture. They're called bate-bolas. Culture with the way of dressing is ultimately created by the people of a certain region, country, etc. And it's in the details. An interesting fact about Brazil is that people would dress in these scary clown outfits and hit these balls that would be held by a stick while having fun but being super scared compared to other kinds of costumes for carnival season. This culture seemed to have started because freed slaves in Brazil that were unjustly hunted by the police would dress like this to celebrate carnival while free, and at the same time fight against the injustice they were suffering by hitting the ball on the floor. This is something I've seen my whole life, and I've never really searched about the history of it until this talk. Many details like this create social identity, and sometimes a fun and lightweight cultural aspect of your culture may have come from a place of oppression. Of course, factors like climate are extremely important for character design as well. So your character's buying power or how the character get access to clothing are interesting factors to explore. In Pokemon or Animal Crossing, you can simply go to a shop to buy new clothing and it's visible for the player how they get dressed. But showing like that may not be possible for your game, making the design choices being even more important. In terms of climate, in a hotter location, people might prefer lightweight and natural fibers like cotton and linen. In colder or places where it rains a lot, the necessity of gear that protects against the rain becomes inevitable, like gabardine. It's important to think of the climatic conditions of the placement your characters live in, as well as their social standing. It's also important to think of your character's personality. It's easy to say, I will give my character a pant because they're going to run, when there's many more interesting choices that would also allow mobility while keeping themselves stylish. It's your own world, and contrary to the world we live in, your characters aren't bound by the same rules that obligate us to wear denim pants. You can create a world without denim. And let's see. And here are some character designs from my own game, Kiloka. Uh, Dressing a character for functionality versus style can be seen a little bit here. In Kiloka, for example, Bobo wears just a simple dress with a jacket. The jacket to protect her synthetic skin from the harsh sun, but also to stylize her visual a little bit. The dress was pretty much because I thought as a singer, Bobo would like to look cute, but also with not that much of an effort. A one-piece garment that she can just put on that fits in perfectly, and she's ready to be out of the house. Combat boots to match the kinds of desert environments she walks in every day, and again to keep a distance from the hot floor. A choker for style and rings for style and accessorizing as well. Many people from where Bobo comes from wear simpler outfits, while the satellites wear more outrageous, outlandish gear, showing how they don't have to walk through harsh, sandy floors. You can see on the right corner Bobo's guitarist. He's more over-the-top stylist. He's what I'd say is the quintessential cyberpunk guy. And he was also the original main character of Kiloka when the game was initially envisioned as a visual novel. I decided not to make visual novels because I'm quite bad at them. Kudos to anyone doing them right now. This very difficult genre to tackle as a writer. But after changing the game to be a turn-based RPG, I also changed the game story. And then the main character became Bobo because I wanted to do this world without music. And she was the central piece of the story. Another interesting fact about Bobo also is that I changed her a lot since the beginning, and the last change that created her final character design was because of trying to match my singer's vocal energy to the design. We had lots of trouble trying to find a singer at a time, and when we finally got a singer, this was the aesthetic that we envisioned for the voice. By trying to match that, we actually got to the design that we really love and use now. So there's many things that may come your way that make you change your idea about the character design, and when it clicks, it feels really satisfying. In terms of dressing a character for functionality versus style, you can see here some examples from other games as well. The games on screen are Going Under and Castlevania. Castlevania on the right, Going Under on the left. Going Under is an indie game, and Castlevania is very popular, very popular platformer. Everyone probably knows about it. And Going Under, the main character was a new intern, and most of the characters in the world reflected this workplace attire that's very focused on functionality. Of course, in a workplace, the character will be clad in a uniform that all the other characters have to use. And it's difficult to make the uniform look as accurate as it can be, taking our word as a norm, and also be stylish. So I find it interesting how they added more interest to the character herself, Jackie, with her hairstyle, the skin color, and how her uniform is well fitted and looks nice on her. An opposite example of the functionality in dressing that's exposed on this game can be seen in Castlevania, where all characters definitely express a cultural aspect of the game. They're vampires wearing similar attire to each other, but still exuding this otherworldly aura for the player. Castlevania has a spectacular design that goes way beyond substance, striking as stylish and difficult to walk in. Dressing as these characters would take a few minutes before you can leave the house, but there's no denial you will be the best dressed. And the thing that permits the over-the-top design to exist coherently within the world is the cohesiveness between the characters and the connection to the pre-dictated rules of the world they live in. Here you can see some, these are each character from a game. An interesting and quite different examples here as well. Here you can see Nathan Drake with very common looking clothing, together with Eileen from Bloodborne and the little Goody Two Shoes main character, as well as Dee from Elden Ring. All of these characters are very distinct, but the three on the right have a lot in common when it comes to adding more flair and style to a character design, and as well as making the character design complicated and impractical. This design has a very complicated armor with a representation of his brother attached to the armor itself. The little goody two-shoes MC, who's supposed to be running at night deeper into the forest, wears high heels and a dainty frilly dress inspired by the elegant Gothic Lolita fashion. I'd say leaning towards classic Lolita. And you have Eileen, who wears a crow cape, definitely impractical for fighting. But these designs aren't about practicality as much as they are about looking stylish and inside their own world. All of these designs, Nathan included, are very well integrated into their own words and have a function being that practicality or style. And now this is a general broad idea of how I would create character design with style that also has culture attached to it. You have to think about the designing parts. Clothing is worn certain ways. It's the layers that make it special. Think about the pieces you want to incorporate. For that, I use in real life inspiration. And what I usually do is look on brands I like. And by brands I like, I mean fashion brands. But I won't be always looking on the same place. It's important to add variety, to know brands from all over the world. Otherwise, there won't be culture in your character elements. Some of the brands I look for inspiration for my character designs are Raspberry Masochist or Mohamed Motier. I'm actually wearing them today. And I look through the catalog and we do a big character board where I put everything I'm interested in having for this character in a cohesive way. That also includes looking at real life people who may serve as inspiration. Having a cultural background inspiration is also vital. So here I made an example character that would wear a hanfu skirt from Chinese, presenting Chinese history, as well as mixing a bit with this Edwardian era-inspired walking boots, and also a Japanese headdress and a jade that could tell a little bit more of the story of the character, since jade jewelry are often family heirlooms. It's very important to think of the character body type and skin color as well. And those will help inform you what kinds of colors they can wear and that will look prettier against their skin. I won't go further on colors as that would require a whole another talk, but color coordination is extremely important if you want your character to stand out, but also blending with those of their own culture within the world you're building. Other than that, skin color also shows how you're perceived socially. If racism is a thing in your world that you'd like to explore, then skin color become extremely relevant for character design. Because if your character feels like an outsider to the community and wants to fit in, then they might want to try to wear the same as others, or maybe they wear the same to blend in and becoming visible because they don't want any attention. Or maybe they dress differently because they're proud of their own culture. These are all lenses of the same situation you can explore. Remember, the character lives in a world and bought the items they have from some merchant within the world. Or maybe it's a family heirloom, but they got it from somewhere within their own world. If the people around them don't match the aesthetics, then they need to be someone from outside that world or country or region. If they belong to that culture and use attire completely different to others, explore their way of that true narrative. Are they bullied by other characters for not fitting in? I wear the elegant Gothic Lolita alternative sub-fashion on the streets in England, and people are not very kind at times. That's the kind of stuff that if you plan well, you can make a character that is really well integrated to their own world, while also having their own uniqueness. And this is a character that I would create based on my culture as well. On the second slide, I'm showing a character design that is from Brazil. And Brazil has its own religion from the African diaspora, derived from the Yoruba religion that is called Candomblé. This religion has its own gods, and this character is inspired by the god Oxalá. And the mothers of saints that you can see around the state of Bahia wearing long, large white dresses. Both of them aren't one and the same, but connecting the designs of both make for great character design ideas. Elements of this culture that I'd favor for character design would be the god's interesting mask and staff while incorporating the dress from the Mother of Saints. The one that has a snake on her neck is quite striking and would be an interesting pet for the character to have, of course, given a reason for them to have that. Coming up with design reasons after a design point is added is okay too. Maybe it is not a snake pet. Maybe it can be something else like a god that was imprisoned on the snake's body and the character has to protect it and they become friends. Elements like that enrich the character design and introduce cultural backgrounds. And the interesting thing is that you don't necessarily have to be doing this from your own cultural background, although it does enhance the experience of the player to be playing something that comes from more authentic sources, while also finding yourself closer to your own culture. It's easy for developers of color in the diaspora to find themselves consuming a lot of culture that isn't their own. And that's all right, but talking about your own culture in your games lets you connect with more with that culture that you're currently distanced from. Uh, my text is a bit covered on this one, but this is the talk about character design in Virgo versus the Zodiac. This is my first game that I was talking about before. Virgo versus the Zodiac was my first game and a turn-based RPG where you play as a villain, Virgo, going after the other Zodiacs. All the Zodiacs are these cute girls, and you get these friends to go around with you called Gingerbread. This is the little gingerbread man there. The character designing Virgo versus the Zodiac was actually the first time ever I did character design for a game, or that I've drawn original characters that would have a story attached to them. And it was definitely an experience on trying to keep a consistent art style throughout the whole thing. It's difficult to do character design for a game because you have to think of how the silhouette will look like. Silhouette is everything in pixel art, right? And also how will the animations be done and etc. What me and the animator Engleman did at the time was to keep some level of consistency for the design of areas and give each of the Zodiac girls their particular countries their realms would be inspired by. Even though their designs were pretty much free of rules, something I wouldn't do anymore. Don't get me wrong, I love these designs, but I enjoy the kind of route I'm going for my games now, where the story connection between the characters and their designs are more like perfectly interconnected. And here you can see some shameful old drawings of mine. Capricorn then is ancient and modern Japan, plus goats, plus winter. And then you have Taurus, that is ancient Korea, plus cows, plus fall. Cancer was around 700s France, 1700s France with an added chocolate factory, plus Alice inspired and dolls. And then there's Leo, that was Rome, Mongolia, Egypt, and felines plus summer. And Pisces realm was inspired by Polynesian structures with little fish shell houses, plus graveyard and winter. This helped us a lot with our sets, but in terms of what outfits would make the zodiacs in, we were free and wild. Aries, for example, wears a school uniform because she's supposed to still be in school even though everyone else graduated. Leo wears a more revealing outfit because she's confident in her body and wants to flaunt it around. And Taurus wear a very butchered version of a hanbok. I love Pisces' design that seems like she just grabbed anything she found laying around just because it's against the law to walk around naked. And Aquarius is a captain of a rogue fleet of pirates trying to free workers undergoing bad working conditions under her sister Capricorn's command. All of these designs fit the character's personality and the world well, and that's what you want in your game. You can see a bit of the ones that I was talking about before. Leo is the one on the right, and then there is Aquarius there in the middle between Virgo and Pisces. Pisces is the one with the green hair, and Virgo is the blonde one. Aquarius is the one with white hair, and Leo is the one with pink hair. And um, and now I would like to talk a bit about the subcultures and alternative fashion that I take inspiration from. You can see me, the left corner, those three pictures on the left corner are me. And elegant Gothic Lolita fashion has been a huge inspiration for me and for my character designs. From Virgo versus Zodiac to Kilocker, you can see on the left corner, this is actually me dressed in this sub-style. I'm part of this community, so it's easier for me to know where to look when looking for inspiration. Two of the places that I look for inspiration the most are the Law Library and the Gothic and Lolita Bible, the 90s Japanese magazine. Another interesting magazine at the time was Kara, that showcased more substyles of Harajuku streets, a fashionable location in Japan. The elegant Gothic Lolita fashion is inspired by the Rococo and Victorian eras, but it's ultimately very Japanese and it has its own substyle rules. I wear the Gothic substyle, but there's also sweet, that's very girly, pink and frilly, and the classic substyles that is very inspired by historical influences like the Victorian and Edwardian eras. Here you can see also Mana-sama is the one with black and blue dress on the right, and Kanamun is the model tied to the tree. They are both very influential figures of this substyle, as Mana-sama was the creator of the magazine Gothic and Lolita Bible that would eventually become the greatest archive on Lolita fashion in the world. An archive is extremely important when talking about alternative fashion because alternative fashion cannot spread and be known for many years without the people that archive and create this historical profiling for these fashions because they are not normalized within their eras. Normal people don't wear these clothes, so it's important to keep the culture alive even by keeping photographs of the time. I myself keep a bunch of these Gothic and Lolita Bible magazines at home to peruse into another era. All of these photographs used here on these slides are more than 30 years old. In this edition of the Gothic and Lolita Bible, for example, they went to London in the 90s to register the punk scene. And Vivienne Westwood culture at the time. The Vivienne Westwood as the haute couture brand that was very influential figure of the time and very influential for punk culture as well, since they used to dress the Sex Pistols. And also extremely influential for Japanese Lolitas because of Vivienne Westwood shop being available in Japan at the time as well. Easy access to the brand allow people to wear it. And I find the picture with the picture at the center with the baby the star shine bright added of the model in front of Westminster very funny because they managed to get a photographer in London to take street snaps of Londoners at the time, but they didn't manage to send the model there, so she's still there only in spirit. And now to bring back to Brazilian culture a little bit, that I'm very proud of. I'd like to talk a little bit more about my own culture and how it informs my design choices as well. I'm from the most touristic spot in Brazil. It's called Rio de Janeiro. So you might be aware, I've seen all kinds of people around my neighborhood ever since I was very small and I lived in the capital with 6 million people living there. So streets were crowded and full all the time. And as a child, I remember celebrating Brazilians' wings in the cup and painting the streets with the Brazilian flag every time Brazil would win. That built a lot of nationalism in me that isn't the same anymore for Brazilians nowadays. For me, going outside of my country to live in England doesn't remove how proud I am of my culture and how I celebrate it. In fact, the contrast with the rest of the world helped define what was truly Brazilian in my mind rather than just a standard. Although pride of my culture is still present in me, it's not the same for many Brazilians because of how that sentiment shifts with the years due to corruption and the average Brazilian being exploited at work for very low wages. Pride is one of the biggest forms of keeping culture. You wouldn't want to celebrate something you aren't proud of. So I'd like to talk about moments in my childhood that are etched in my memory linked to my culture. The Brazilian Carnival is known to be the biggest carnival celebration in the world, with around 2 million people in the streets every day to celebrate during the course of roughly a week. It's a big deal with lots of investment from the government, as it's a big touristic postcard in Brazil, together with the New Year celebration, also known to be the biggest in the world. The carnival celebrations, besides having street parties, will have samba schools fighting for the gold, of which one will be chosen the best of the year in terms of allegoric prowess, story, music, costuming, etc. Each samba school brings separate groups that are to represent a part of the storytelling. This story is usually narrated for anyone watching television, and it's a big part of Brazilian culture to watch it yearly with the family. The groups are divided in between groups of people dancing and allegories. The most important group is the one that contains the two persons who represent the ceremony leader and the banner bearer. They are always very distinct, as their attire is flamboyant and inspired by the Portuguese royalty. Inspired is the key word here, as this is very different and distinct to Brazilian culture still. That's the point I'd like to get to. When getting inspiration for design, it's important to be historically accurate, but at a point where you aren't copying your references. To keep historical accuracy while doing character design, I try to add more flair to clothing, but keep weapon design pretty historically accurate and kind of copy paste. Weapons have very simple designs and can be only recognized if you don't change them too much. Being inspired by a silhouette and changing the content inside the silhouette is also a very good idea. I show here on the slide how that can work if you use this silhouette that's already a pretty good character design. You can then even get the inspiration from other cultures for the decoration and the style of the clothing. Maybe change the headgear a bit. As long as you keep the idea of the silhouette. You can see I silhouetted the image on the left corner. It's easy to recognize where the inspiration comes from, and it makes for more compelling storytelling through art. And that's it. What to choose then? Style or substance? Well, I would say don't choose and have both. In my opinion, cultural expression cannot exist without style, and it cannot exist without substance. Both should walk hand in hand when it comes to character design, so that you don't end up with a design that is a bit too bland. Of course, always follow your heart and your vision and respect your own word. Nobody knows your word better than you. But this is it. I am Nana Moon, and these are some places to follow me. I have a Twitter and a TikTok account that I post very often, and I have an Etsy shop where I have a bunch of merch for my games. If you're interested in Kiloka, there's loads of merch for Kiloka there, poster stickers, and I have also some phone grips and also merch for Virgo versus Zodiac. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in today.
Thank you so much for that talk, Nana. I really enjoyed thinking about all the different ways that you can communicate with fashion without saying a single word. Changing the color of a character's garments or the length of a jacket can have all kinds of narrative or environmental implications. And it's just very cool to think about. I also enjoyed that concept of archiving countercultural experiences. So much of mainstream culture does innovate from counterculture. Many of us know that as marginalized folks who oftentimes create many of the innovations that spur mainstream culture forward. So thank you for that talk and perspective, and again, congratulations on the launch of Keylocker. If you want to find Nana online, you can find her on Twitter at Munana_ or on TikTok at Munana Games. And don't forget to pick up Keylocker. It's available on PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and Steam.